Let us begin episode 18 of Whispers of the Ancients, a tale of fire-forged unity, ruthless vision, and the dynasty that first named China. Whispers of the Ancients, East Asia, Episode 4, the Qin Dynasty, Walls of Fire. Throne of Iron to 21 to 206 BCE, the first Imperial dynasty of China. One under heaven. Before, the dragon's coils bound the mountains. Before 1,000 scrolls were burned or buried, there was one man who saw chaos and chose order. Not gently, not with consensus, but with the iron will of a mountain reshaped by lightning. He did not ask the people to follow. He commanded. Thus rose the Qin Dynasty, and with it, China as the world would come to know it. In a blaze of conquest, he silenced feuding kings, broke their ancestral blades, melted them into statues of submission, and declared himself Shi Huang, the first emperor. Walls rose, roads spread like veins. Weights, scripts, thoughts themselves standardized, regimented, chained, and behind the black-lacquered throne whispers of alchemy, immortality, and deaths. Defiance. But no fire burns forever, and when the smoke cleared, the world was left with ruins, and a name that would never be forgotten, Qin. 1. The Warring States, a land without peace, long before the name Qin echoed across valleys and palaces. China was not a nation but a battle ground, the land fractured into rival states Qi, Chu, Yan, Hong, Zhao, Wei, and Qin was gripped by bloodshed in an era known as the Warring States period. Over the centuries of endless conflict, diplomacy sharpened like daggers, and alliances were as fleeting as morning mist. Armies trampled harvests, cities turned to ash. Loyalty was bought, sold, and betrayed with ease, and yet within this chaos one state rose with cunning, cruelty, and purpose. Qin, nestled in the rugged west, surrounded by mountains and rivers. Qin was once seen as uncivilized by its eastern neighbors, but while the others feasted on ceremony and tradition, Qin focused on strength. It forged its future on steel and sweat, on merit and law. It welcomed foreign talent, elevated the capable regardless of birth, and honored not heritage but results. When the states tore themselves apart, Qin unified its ambition. Its rise was not a miracle, it was engineered. 2. The architect of ruthlessness, Shangyan. Qin's transformation began with a single mind, Shangyang, a legalist reformer who arrived in the 4th century BCE with fire in his heart and a philosophy. Sharp as a blade, he reshaped Qin into a war machine. He crushed the nobility's power, rewarding only performance. Farmers who produced more grain were honored. Soldiers who beheaded the enemy were rewarded with land. Families were divided into small units, each responsible for the other's loyalty. And the law, it spared none, not even royalty. It was brutal, and it worked. Shangyang would be torn apart by chariots after political enemies regained influence. But the system he created, it endured. It hardened Qin into an unbreakable fist and prepared it to seize the destiny of a continent. 3. Yingzheng, the boy who would be emperor. Into 59 BCE, a boy was born in Handan, the capital of rival Zhao. His name was Yingzheng, a name history would forget, but whose deeds would echo across millennia. He became king of Qin at just 13 years old, and though his court was riddled with regents and plots, he learned quickly. Patience was his weapon, deception his ally. By the time he seized full power in his early 20s, Yingzheng had become more than a monarch. He was a storm wrapped in silk. No longer content to be one king among many, he set his gaze beyond the western posses. He would end the warring states. He would unify all under heaven, and he would do it not as a ruler among equals, but as something altogether new. 4. The unification, 7 thrones toppled. Between 230 and 21 BCE, Yingzheng launched a campaign unprecedented in scale and precision. One by one, the rival kingdoms fell beneath the boots of his armies. Hong, the weakest, was first to be swallowed. Zhao, where he was born, was taken with fierce resistance and brutal reprisal. Yan, assassins in their employ, fell soon after its capital razed. Wei crumbled beneath siege and starvation. Chu, proud and vast, was the fiercest to resist, but even it bowed before Qin's tenacity. Qi, seeing the futility, surrendered without a fight. By 21 BCE, all the warring states were gone, and in their place stood a single ruler, Shi Huang, the first emperor. He did not claim the title of king. That was for men. He declared himself Huangdi, a divine title reserved for mythic rulers, the sons of heaven. He was not merely a ruler of China, he was China. If you're enjoying this journey into ancient power and ambition, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to explore more forgotten empires. Which ancient civilization intrigues you the most? Tell us in the comments, we read them all, and your voice shapes the next whisper. 5. Standardization, one empire, one mind. Now united, the empire faced a challenge even greater than war: diversity. The first emperor imposed standardization across his vast realm: scripts, coins, weights, measures, axle lengths, and even the width of roads. Thousands of local characters were abolished in favor of a uniform writing system, still the basis for Chinese characters today. He reordered the administrative map into 36 commanderies, breaking the power of old noble families. Roads and canals stitched the empire together. Inns and postal stations appeared along the highways, binding mountains and valleys into one system. Every policy had a purpose: erase difference, destroy memory, create unity not by invitation, but by force. 6. The Great Wall, a barrier of bones. Nomadic threats to the north, especially from the Xiongnu, remained a constant menace. The emperor ordered the linking of regional defensive walls into a colossal structure, the early Great Wall of China. Hundreds of thousands of conscripts, peasants, soldiers, and criminals were forced into labor. They died in the cold, under whips and falling stones. Many were buried within the wall itself. It was not the stone marvel we see today, but a crude, massive earthwork. Still, its symbolism was powerful: an empire secure, a people protected, a warning to the world. 7. Thought control, burning the books. Unity came at a steep cost: freedom of thought. To crush dissent and confusion, the emperor heeded the advice of his legalist ministers. He ordered the burning of all non-legalist texts, especially those of Confucian tradition. Books on poetry, history, philosophy turned to ash. Hundreds of scholars who resisted were buried alive or executed, silenced in blood. This act, burning books and burying scholars, has haunted Chinese memory for generations. It was not simply censorship, it was cultural cleansing. In Shi Huangdi's empire, only one truth could exist: his 8. The quest for immortality, the greatest enemy of the emperor, was death. Shi Huangdi became obsessed with immortality. He sent expeditions to distant seas to find the mythical Isle of Immortals, filled with elixirs of life. Charlatans and alchemists filled his court with promises and poisons. He consumed mercury mixtures, hoping to live forever, even as they slowly destroyed his mind and body. His obsession led to paranoia. He changed palaces constantly to confuse assassins. He refused to name an heir. His fear of death drove him to madness, and in short, his empire would die with him. 9. Mausoleum of the God King, earth beneath iron. As the first emperor chased immortality in life, he built a kingdom for his death. In the shadowed hills near modern Xi'an, beneath layers of red earth, a mausoleum unlike any other was carved into the ground, a city for the afterlife, built over decades by hundreds of thousands of laborers, craftsmen, and slaves. At its heart, buried in mercury rivers and guarded by traps of crossbows and stone, lay the emperor's tomb, still unopened to this day. But it was what surrounded it that would stun the modern world. In 1974, farmers digging a well uncovered the edge of a vast subterranean army. The terracotta warriors, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each with a unique face. Armored and armed, eternally vigilant, there were archers crouched, charioteers standing, generals with grim expressions, an empire rendered in clay, awaiting the command of its dead master. He feared death, and so he made war on it by recreating his entire court, his entire army beneath the soil. It remains one of the most awe-inspiring funerary constructions ever discovered, and it whispers a chilling truth: tyranny does not die, it is buried, and waits. 10. Death of a tyrant, the dragon falls. Into 10 BCE, while on a journey through the eastern provinces, the first emperor died suddenly, likely from mercury poisoning his own elixir of immortality, becoming the blade of his undoing. But his ministers, especially the cunning eunuch Zhao Gao, hid the news. The empire was too fragile to survive shock. They forged edicts in the emperor's name. They falsified orders. They manipulated his youngest son, Ying Hahai, placing him on the throne as Qin Shi. The second emperor, weak, paranoid, and easily controlled. The corpse of the first emperor was carted back across the empire in secret, accompanied by wagons of rotting fish to mask the stench. The God King was dead, but the illusion of power lived on. For a time. 11. Rebellion brews, the fire beneath the stone. The Qin Dynasty, for all its military genius, had been built on fear, not love. Its people toiled under crushing taxes. Its nobles had been stripped of honor. Its scholars silenced. Its traditions burned. When word of the emperor's death began to leak, the dam burst. In 209 BCE, a storm delayed to minor military officers, Chen Sheng and Wu Guan, from reporting for duty a crime punishable by death under Qin law. With no way out, they rebelled. Their mutiny, small and spontaneous, became a wildfire. Peasants and soldiers rose across the land. Former generals and royal Qin declared themselves kings of new lands. Old loyalties reawakened. The empire unraveled faster than it had been sown. Second engagement prompt, these ancient empires still whisper through time. If you're captivated by the fire and fury of the Qin, imagine what lies ahead in Hong, Tang, or even forgotten Korean kingdoms. Comment below. What civilization should we unearth next? Remember to subscribe and share this journey with fellow seekers of ancient wisdom. 12. Fall of the House of Qin, the second emperor. Qin Shi was ill-prepared to stem the chaos. Manipulated by Zhao Gao, he grew erratic and cruel, executing generals and officials out of suspicion. Even the capable Prime Minister Li Si, who had helped unify the empire, was tortured and executed by the same legalist system he had created. In 207 BCE, the capital of Xionyang was stormed by rebel forces led by the general Xiongnu. The Qin court was shattered. The last Qin ruler, a puppet child emperor, surrendered in fear and humiliation. He was later executed. The Qin Dynasty unifier of China, builder of walls and roads. The Terracotta Empire had lasted just 15 years, and yet it would shape 1,000 more. 13. Legacy of Iron, the echo that never ends. The Qin fell, but their ideas endured. The standardized script remained. The bureaucratic model of centralized governance persisted. The dream of a unified China single empire under heaven became not a fantasy, but an expectation. Future dynasties, especially the Han, learned from the Qin's failures and adopted their innovations. The name Qin lives on even today in the very word China, from the Persian Sin, derived from Qin. In life, the dynasty ruled with brutality. In memory, it ruled with brilliance. Final engagement prompt. History is not a straight path, it is forged in fire, fear, and forgotten empires. What do you think of the Qin? Tyrants or visionaries? Monsters or makers? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for the next chapter in Whispers of the Ancients as we unveil the Han Dynasty, where empire and philosophy would rise from the ashes of tyranny. 14. Cinematic close, the whisper beneath the stone. The wind rustles through the valleys near Xi'an, over the quiet hills where the first emperor lies entombed. The terracotta warriors stand in silence. Millennia pass, they wait, still. The empire he built is long gone, but the idea remains etched in earth and bone. A unified China, one realm, one law, one emperor, a throne of iron, a legacy of clay, and a whisper that echoes still, I am the first, I will not be the last.